Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
welcome to the Movie Wire.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We got a big show this week with 3 new movies to review, with all 3 playing in theaters right now. This week on the show, Justice Makes Him Wet. Liam Neeson and Pamala Anderson star in The Naked Gun. Love is hard and breakups are harder when an unnatural force has a plan to keep them together forever. Franco and Alison Brie star in Together. And finally, everyone's favorite felons are back, and this time they've got company in The Bad Guys 2. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch a roar and a burst of flame. The Movie Wire podcast. We need people like this.
The Wire.
And here we go.
Years into their relationship, Jim and Millie find themselves at a crossroads as they move to the country. With tensions already flaring, an encounter with an unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. In his first directorial debut comes Michael Shank's Together.
I love you. What's going on?
I don't know. Since the move, Tim and I haven't been on the same page.
Please, do you love each other?
Maybe we're just complacent.
Imagine I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right.
Well, you know, complacency can sometimes simply be
So happy together.
harmony. You know, this could be the beginning
When you roll over, then you're on my hair.
of something wonderful.
Tim.
We spend our lives in search of the other half. If you think you found that, don't be so quick to let it go.
I think something's happening to us.
Listen to me. Listen to me. We've got to get out of here. Now. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Billy, wake up!
You'll be okay. Whiskey for the pain.
Now, my thoughts and curiosities were going wild during my viewing of Together, from an opening scene of 2 dogs being welded together by an unnatural force to hands being sucked into arms. to even the outcome of what our two main characters, Tim and Millie, played by Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who are boyfriend and girlfriend. But it's also interesting that Franco and Brie are also married in real life. My curiosities were spiked on the outcome of this relationship. Tim and Millie both have internal conflicts that output itself in what we see from all relationships at times. Job changes, moving, resentment, jealousy, and these conflicts are amplified by the feelings of love. All of these conflicts can be amplified by a bunch of different emotions. But the dial is cranked up when the ones we love, multiple feelings come in, and when fear is added to that of losing that feeling of love, it puts love in danger. Together is a movie of pure curiosity. From a visual standpoint to represent a toxic relationship, the visuals represent the themes here. And can love be powerful enough to induce forgiveness? Michael Shanks does a great job on keeping the symbolic message to mere visuals, to not lean heavy-handed in the dialogue, but focus more on the bigger conflict that leads to the visuals, and that is the relationship and what's driving their emotions. There is an intrigue to how these two interact, and the visuals are just a representation, a mirror of their toxicity together. The dialogue is solely representing the relationship, the visuals are representing the message, and that's what gives the curiosity of what's driving their emotions. The more powerful the emotion, the stronger the visuals. And that is a brilliant strategy here. Shanks attacks the visuals like we saw Kevin Smith do in 2014's Tusk, where the visuals can be grotesque to look at, but the performances are too good to look away. Franco and Brie do a great job here in defining their relationship. Where it's never too good to be true, there's a subtle awkwardness to how they both interact, as if they both know they have been distant from each other, but we can still feel and see the love. And I guess when it comes to their chemistry, it helps with the two being married since 2017. An 8-year marriage has conflict. It has memorable moments too. It has happy moments. Their chemistry is a relatable one. The chemistry felt like having an argument with your partner, and after all the words are said and done, we had that awkward moment or moments of who's going to apologize first. And tip, to avoid further conflict, yes, it should always be the husband. It's like we almost feel like a looking glass into a marriage of a decade, watching our couple go through the motions, and as a viewer, we ask ourselves, should we be watching this? Should we be eavesdropping? The same goes for the visuals, with again the question, should I actually be watching this? But of course, if we ask ourselves that question, human nature is, yes, we are going to watch it, because it feels taboo. Shanks goes out of his way to make the dialogue feel uncomfortable, the visuals and the settings feel uncomfortable. But also what was impressive about Shanks is the eye for lighting here. He brings the setting to life to take us from feeling like a looking glass into feeling we are part of the setting. When Shanks wants to be intimate, he is strategic with the camera, focusing on our characters. No surprise there. But when our characters are out of the house, he opens up his shots with inviting us to investigate the surroundings and what our characters are doing, interacting with the setting. Shanks has great ideas in the dialogue, and between Franco and Brie, he understands the chemistry build. But when we get to the climax, this is where we can tell doesn't know where to take these characters, and we go more into the cliche territory, where we have a town mystery, an added thread, and a bunch of unanswered questions. And when it comes to the mystery, when it comes to the cliches, it's the only intended curiosity that I wasn't curious about, nor did I care about. And this is going to play like a backhanded compliment, where he writes our main characters so good with fantastic performances. The scenes where we have a bigger mystery to it that we should care about, I could care less about. Give me more of the Franco-Brie chemistry. Give me that chemistry. That chemistry is what drives this movie, even to the point where I think it could have gone further. But holistically, the movie does work and does find its footing by the time the credits roll, where we don't get a cliche twist at the end, but rather one that leaves one in thought. For even some, reflect on your current relationship and maybe give that extra hug and kiss to your spouse or partner, and even maybe check your water filters to ensure no creatures sneak in. Together is just as much a character study as it tries to be unsettling and scary. The cinematography and direction scream scary, but the performances and writing scream character study. But at the same time, our characters needed more discovery in their backstories as individuals and couples. Shanks inserts visions and backstories of hauntings, of conflict for each character, but they feel too brief to the point we question if it's even needed. Or each individual's background is too unbelievable. Shanks would have had a better strategy allowing more conversation between our two partners on screen. for the viewer to discover our characters' backgrounds instead of showing situational scenes to display their emotions. Now, even though the visuals on how the message is delivered isn't going to be for everyone, the message is a relatable one that some may reflect on how love can be fantastic and be great. It's the most powerful human emotion, but it comes with conflict. And that's because love and the need to be accepted is a powerful emotion that any other emotion can compromise. And this is a relatability that both partners can share, and we understand. But we can never truly understand the effects on one another because they're each individual people. Together is going to be one of those movies that's not going to be everyone's taste. And the climax does go to cliché territory and has some unanswered questions. But for a movie that could be extremely ugly and gross, well, it is kind of that. But by the end, Shanks leaves us with a single thought to make a couple of hours of ugliness feel more beautiful by the time we leave the theater and get to our car. Together is a fantastic introduction to our writer-director Michael Shanks, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. It is a bizarre, bonkers movie, but I can't help it. I'm giving Together 3.5 stars.
And don't you know I would move heaven and earth to be together forever with you.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure to check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
A new era is born in Jurassic World Rebirth, in which we needed a redo, not a rebirth, that birthed out 2 stars. Hold on to your coconuts in a Disney remake that's familiar but extends the heart in Lilo & Stitch that received 3 stars. Some people just want more in a romantic movie that tackles today's social status versus what love actually is in The Materialist that received 3 stars. The ocean leaves no trace. His murder weapon has an appetite in Dangerous Animals that put humans as the predator over sharks. My animal instincts couldn't help but give it 3 stars. The Bitch is Back in Megan 2.0 that had a good premise, but the execution of what to do with the premise missed the mark, receiving 2.5 stars. Another live-action remake that changes absolutely nothing in How to Train Your Dragon. That if you like the original, just watch the original, receiving 2 stars. When families unite, a new legacy begins in Karate Kid Legends that feels as entertaining as going to a random kids kung fu tournament, receiving 1.5 stars. And please don't go to a random kids kung fu tournament, that's just weird. If something gets in your way, flatten it in Wes Anderson's The Finishing Scheme. That is as Wes Anderson as it gets, but instead of relying on an ensemble, we rely on one character that becomes exhausting, receiving 2.5 stars. The Past Never Stays Buried. Pierce Brosnan and Samuel L. Jackson star in the Western The Unholy Trinity, which should be considered unholy with wasting such talent, receiving 2 stars. Be careful who you assemble in the new Marvel movie Thunderbolts, or New Avengers, whatever the fuck the title is, which is the best Marvel movie to come out in quite a while that goes back to its simplistic roots, receiving 3 stars. From the world of John Wick comes just another John Wick film, just less interesting, in Ballerina, that I would have been more entertained by going to the ballet, receiving 2 stars. Orphans in a New Home have to face the devil and bring her back, which attacks emotions to an unsettling fear, receiving 3.5 stars. A Japanese puppeteer's daughter gets caught up with criminals in a game of revenge in Tornado, which was a cinematic sightseeing tour in silence, receiving 2 stars. Josh Hartnett decides to have a midlife crisis and bleach his hair to play a mercenary on a plane that has to protect a target on a plane full of assassins in Fight or Flight, which if I had a choice, I would be fighting my way out of the theater, receiving 1.5 stars. Then finally, Death Runs in the Family in Final Destination Bloodlines, which was a bloody good time and one of the best of the franchise, receiving 3.5 stars. You can check out those reviews on my previous episodes, and while you do, don't forget to follow or subscribe, and please don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure to check out one of the podcasts that are part of my weekly listening routines. They add some sugar and spice talking about baking and murders in the Sugar-Coated Murders podcast. The link to that show will be in the description of this episode, including their book, Click, Click, Click. But let's hear from Karen and Ann over the Sugar-Coated Murder podcast now.
Hey y'all, this is Karen Devaney from the Sugar Coated Murder Podcast. Join me and my sister Ann Varner for a new true crime experience. If you are obsessed with cooking shows and have a curious passion for murder cases, then find us on any of your favorite listening apps. Stay sweet.
Only one man has a particular set of skills to lead police squad and save the world. Liam Neeson stars in this sequel-requel in The Naked Gun.
Once you kill a man for revenge, there's no going back. A voice in your head saying over and over, "That was awesome."
Who are you?
Drebin. Detective Frank Drebin. Thanks.
Police squad has always been the elite of the elite.
Hi, Daddy. It's me, Frank Jr. Love you.
Hey, Dad. Boy, do I miss you.
And you, Frank, are the best of the best.
I need a bathroom. I need this room immediately.
There's a line, man.
Police business. Oh, I'm gonna ruin another suit.
Over here, Lieutenant. I think someone murdered my brother.
Please, take a chair.
Thank you.
I'll find them. This is what I do. Says you served 20 years for man's laughter.
You mean manslaughter?
Must have been quite the joke.
They're going to shut down police squad if you do not solve this case. Do this by the book.
Show a little respect.
Why? Who's gonna arrest me? Other cops?
Yes.
Is she serious?
Is he serious?
No.
Seems Mr. Drebin might be more of a problem than we thought. I want you to keep an eye on him.
This oven is disgusting.
Rest assured, I won't stop until I've found justice.
What do you want, little one?
Your ass. Nobody messes with police squad.
We've upgraded your car with the most advanced crime-fighting tech.
Drive forward 30 feet. Pretty smooth.
Oh!
This place is falling apart.
Now, it was bound to happen, and I said it when this movie was first announced, that if there was a time for a comedy remake, a sequel, a reboot, whatever you want to call it, the world needs a comedy release like The Naked Gun. Since comedy has been scarce over the years, since studios find comedies a risk to theatrical releases, that's why we see a majority of the factory generic comedies hit straight to streaming. And when it comes to this Naked Gun, and I am torn, because on one hand, I hope that Naked Gun does well in the box office, because we need more comedy in theaters. And two, it will give attention to the original Leslie Nielsen films and introduce Leslie Nielsen to, hopefully, a new generation of fans. But this version, sequel, requel, whatever you want to call it, even at the core of wanting it to do well, or even really wanting to like this movie, it was a complete and utter misfire for me. It tries to be too close to the original when it comes to its humor. Does it have laughs? It does have its moments, and with a big crowd, it can appear fun. But the jokes run thin, they run repetitive, and tries to hold to the tradition of the original without adding anything fresh or new, with the exception of some scenes with some added music that do add and amplify the fun factor. But when The Naked Gun does try to be current, it lands. But when it tries to respect the original too much with its old-fashioned humor, it doesn't work a majority of the time. There is a balance that our writers Dan Greger, Denman, and Akiva Shaver try to work, but it's old versus new, and the old feels used and the new does actually land. The times it has random humor, it works as well. But as we watch this film and as a viewer, we can see the movie gives prime examples of how easily it would be to make this slapstick movie work here in the current times. There's a lot of material to work with. If our writers actually push the envelope to be a little bit more risque, to be a little bit more contemporary, there is, again, a ton of material here that our writers can work with, but it's never even teased. Instead, we get dad joke after dad joke with nothing added to make this movie feel fresh. There's nothing added to the table, but rather recycled humor that we saw from the original film that even feels safer than the original film. And maybe that's what our writers felt was needed, to respect the originals. The intent is admirable, but this is a time where we need to see something more edgy in theaters. We need to see more contemporary humor. What is going to be added to make this feel new? Make this genre come back to life. Give us something that we can't see on streaming. And this was a surprise to me, especially with Seth MacFarlane attached to the project, who is known for his random, sporadic, contemporary, edgy humor. This is where we needed him at the writing helm, or even at the director's helm, to deliver something fresh to catapult comedy in the right direction, to really make this genre feel fresh again. Scary Movie did it with its raunchy humor that didn't always work, but it worked enough to be a success that added years to this type of comedy that did end in overused cringe. And for this, just to do the same thing we saw in the 90s won't help, but appease a small audience of fans. We needed more, and the audiences deserve more, especially at the price of a ticket. Now, we do have a scene where it tries to be risque, involving our main character, Liam Neeson, who plays Frank Drebin Jr., the son of Liam Neeson's character from the original films, where he has Beth Davenport, played by Pamela Anderson, the sister of a murder victim, that Frank senses foul play, but really shouldn't, because a chicken isn't capable of murder. Waka waka. But anyway, this scene involves him being watched by the enemy, where Frank draws the curtains just so the enemy can pull out his infrared camera to see Frank and Beth, and even a dog, in compromising positions with the dog, which is just a copycat shadow idea from the Austin Power films. Liam Neeson, after watching his betrayal at serious comedy from Buying Tricks in 2015's Ted 2, actually gave me hope that he would be perfect for this role. And I'm sure Seth MacFarlane thought so too. But a little Neeson goes a long way, and that's saying a lot for a movie that can't even stretch itself to a full hour and a half, running at 85 minutes. And even here, Neeson feels like he's even overstaying his welcome. The problem we have is that the original involved chemistry build around multiple characters to keep the gag running. Here we focus mainly on Liam Neeson to drive the slapstick comedy, and the others have very little to do. It's like everybody's working on different pages, or they all have an idea of what kind of movie this should be. Now, in all fairness to Neeson, he does a decent job here. It's just he has nothing really to work with. Everybody seems to be on different pages, and it's not necessarily Neeson's performance, but it runs thin because the dialogue runs thin, the jokes run thin and tiresome. We can tell our writers were more concerned on honoring the original, and that's okay. We even get a tribute to the passed away characters from the past at the very beginning. But this should have been a reminder to the writers of what really made the original special, especially with our main character, Leslie Nielsen. But instead, our writers just put Neeson in multiple situations with his co-stars to make it funny. And Leslie Nielsen was a masterclass at when he was put in multiple situations with his co-stars. He had body language, he had comedic timing to make it funny, not just in situational pieces, but in chemistry. And here we have Liam Neeson. We can see just go through the motions, trying to be a Leslie Nielsen, trying to play it straight, but all the other things around him aren't playing in the same sandbox, or have no dialogue or chance to interact with the humor. If there was any actor to pull off this kind of movie, again, it would have been Neeson. But there's nothing for him to work with. And as I'm doing this review, I know I might be a little too hard on this movie. I just want to emphasize, this movie does have its moments. But for the humor it tries to accomplish, I found myself giving him sympathy laughs more than actual laughs. And this is where I have to put mind over heart that Liam Neeson does fine. At about the hour mark, I wanted to blame him for the experience, but then I realized it really wasn't him. It was everything around him that made this a chore to an extent, to just kind of get through. That nobody was really having fun with this movie, and the humor wasn't properly paced, and the tone was off. We have Liam Neeson attempt to deliver a joke, a prop is inserted, something breaks, and then we rinse and repeat and go into serious stuff that happens that are situational, or we have serious dialogue that's driven through the movie. The jokes are pretty separated in this movie, and that's why that wouldn't be a bad thing if the actual buildup led to a funny joke. We have a joke that's landed, and then we wait through dialogue or serious moments for the next joke. The build-up, we are patiently waiting, and when we're waiting more than 5-6 minutes for the next joke to land in this slapstick comedy, we would expect that joke to land. And it doesn't a lot of the time. The Naked Gun, I am torn with this movie. I can respect that it tries to respect. It had some fun moments. Neeson does an admirable job given what he has to work with, but it's hard for me to push this past the finish line. If you buy a ticket, it needs to be bought in a big audience, a big crowd. Not because it will complement the comedy, but rather in hopes that those that will find it funny will laugh, and their laughter will be contagious to you. This is not so much a bad movie. It's fine. It's okay. It's hard to say it, don't go see it, but I won't go out of my way to recommend it. It has moments, and when these moments happen, it starts to cook, but then it just runs out of steam. It solely banks on humor from the past without the charm. It has its moments of pure entertainment, but with how much material it has from our culture to play with, it does nothing with it, except for just land old predictable jokes that is still stem from the 90s. The missing element wasn't Liam Neeson, but rather the surrounding elements to make it truly something fun and full of belly laughs, which made this 85-minute movie feel like it was over 2 hours long. Our director, Akiva Schaffer, again, we can tell, doesn't really know how to pace out a comedy, especially how to encourage good comedic timing and character direction with that. That's a hard thing to do, especially in a slapstick movie like this. Schaffer, we can see, wants to make this contemporary visually, but it really doesn't go with the style that's written on paper. Again, this movie's about respecting the tradition, respecting the original cast. I get it, but humor of the past doesn't need to necessarily hold on to tradition as our culture changes. Humor is about taking risk and putting ideas out there to make us feel good about the times we're in, to take us on a little mental escape, to just enjoy ourselves. The Naked Gun proves that humor has officially become safe from streaming and now theatrical. I had high hopes for this movie to spark new life in the theater experience with bringing back comedies to theaters, but we just get yet another safe bet that won't bring comedy back. I hope I'm wrong on this, but I'm not. The movie even made me walk out saying, I don't need to buy that popcorn bucket, which is rare because even the damn popcorn bucket is based on a joke from the original movie that proves this movie came up with nothing new. And just to wrap it up, the main thing that stuck with me after walking out of The Naked Gun is we have a couple scenes that shows a forced smile from Liam Neeson that must be his comedy smile, but it's absolutely the thing of nightmares. I'm giving The Naked Gun 2.5 stars. The bad guys are struggling to find trust and acceptance in their newly minted lives as good guys when they are pulled out of retirement and forced to do one last job by an all-female squad of criminals in The Bad Guys 2.
When it came to being bad, we were pretty good. Who am I kidding? We were the best.
Showtime.
Oh, baby!
It's the bad guys!
Watch this.
I am never driving another car ever again!
Things sure have changed. Not everyone believes it, but the bad guys went good.
I'm keeping my eye on you, guy.
What was that? I panicked, okay? I'm a panicker.
It hasn't been easy with a reputation like ours.
Now you want to work at a bank.
Why not? Some of my best memories are at banks.
You robbed us 3 times.
That was this bank?
The name's Katie. We're students of your work.
Big crime nerds.
So you're like the bad girls.
And you're like a mango with teeth.
What? Is that what I look like? Oh, she is spicy. I like it. Insult me next.
So you're a tough guy.
You need a job, and I need some extra hands. Professionals.
Maybe you don't keep up with the news, but we're good now.
I'm not exactly asking.
So, are we bad again?
We just got to do this one last job. All right, Mr. Master of Disguise, do your thing.
I promise to play you respectfully.
Where's my flowers? Prego, cappuccino.
You're a grumpy little snaky wakey.
Is she your hostage?
No, she's my girlfriend.
Why is she in his mouth?
Now, when the original Bad Guys came out in 2022, I was early in this show, and it was also one of the first episodes where I brought my daughter on to help review a movie. The original film we both agreed was a lot of fun to appease kids and original enough to entertain adults. My daughter Brooklyn gave it 4 stars, I gave it 3.5. And if you want to listen to that episode, it's episode 12 of this show. Now, fast forward 3 years later, we have our ex-gang of thieves, including Sam Rockwell returning as Wolf, Mark Marone as Snake, Craig Robinson as Shark, Anthony Ramos as Piranha, and of course, what's an animated movie without Aquafina, who returns as Tarantula. We continue the story of our ex-team of ex-thieves as they try and turn to a life that's crime-free, from even trying to find real, normal jobs. That is until another gang blackmails them in helping with the biggest heist the world has ever seen. This team is led by Daniel Brooks as Kitty Cat. The Bad Guys 2, it's a sequel, and it's a sequel that plays on the cards it has, by placing our characters in normal situations only to be dragged into yet another heist with higher stakes. It plays out like any other animated sequel would. But what I found disappointing is the fact it loses its charm of the characters from the first film. And our writers Johnny Brenner and Ethan Cohen and our director Pierre Perifel and JP Sands really just bank that we know these characters from the first film. And we do, but we don't know where they are now. Our filmmakers keep these characters at a mere surface level, who go through the motions and lets the story run them. In the first act of the film, as we have our characters go out to live normal lives and try to find jobs. I found this a perfect opportunity to really take these characters on a path to connect with the audience, to evolve them, to give the viewer something new to digest. But this is just treated as almost a montage of gags that really isn't funny or engaging. I know our writers are eager to get to the meat and potatoes of the plot with introducing our 3 new characters, including a romance between a snake and a bird that will have furries cheering. The main appeal here is that the Bad Guys 2 still does have its hook, which is the animation that does feel more vibrant here. It looks good, and it helps to keep eyes on the screen and still feel engaging, especially with more detailed elements of the uses of shadows and landscapes. This makes the animation style feel changed just ever so slightly to ensure the climax setting looks believable. The movie's animation seems to add in small differences compared to the first film to justify the settings our characters are in, and these details added in are small enough to not throw off the feel of the film or make it feel too different from the original film. The only 2 questions some will have is who this movie was made for, or what does this movie want to be? The first film was pretty clear in its mission to have a little bit of something for everyone. But here we are lacking the charm, we're lacking the depth of dialogue that tells a message. We just get a bunch of animals in a higher stakes plot with nothing to say or think about as our kids leave the theater. And I have to remember that the original Bad Guys came out in the spring of 2022. Here, it's a summer release, and it makes sense because it feels like an overstuffed, sugary animated summer movie. And in fairness, to its credit, I think kids will be entertained by this, at least starting maybe during the second half of the film. But the question would be, is that too late for kids to bring them back in their theater seats from an antsy first act? Who knows? To its credit, at least the movie keeps kids at top of mind and gives them something they haven't seen before, like an animated fart joke in space that lingers on for what seems like 10 minutes. Yes, I purposely use the word linger. We can tell our writers are running out of ideas to keep our kids entertained because the go-to is always a fart joke. But here we have one joke that literally goes on and on and on. This is the moment that it all came together for me. From a snake deep-throating a bird's head to represent making out to a 10-minute fart joke. I have no idea what this movie was trying to prove. But maybe I just expect too much from an animated movie for kids. And I have to remind myself that this is a summer release and its intent is to be mere bubblegum for the mind for kids, to keep them entertained for an hour and 45 minutes, which in regards to the runtime is also a gamble with an animated movie and begs the question who this movie was made for. Was it made for adults, kids, or someone else? Maybe a group of adults that play in costumes. I don't know. The Bad Guys 2 is a way to get kids out of the heat, to watch animated characters do things on screen, but take no value out of it. It's a fun movie to look at, but no fun to think about, with characters that were memorable in the original, but forgettable here. if there is a Bad Guys 3 that comes out, which from the looks of it, it is a high probability, they're going to have to take these characters up a notch because these characters came from an adapted children's book by Aaron Blabey, and they deserve more. I'm giving the Bad Guys 2, 2.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.